Alright, there we go. Perfect. How's it going, everybody? Welcome to episode 24. Believe it or not, episode 24 of the Table Talk podcast. We are officially live. It is Tuesday, February 15th. Payday, right, big sis? Today's payday. Alright.
Yep. The first of the month, in the middle.
The middle of the month.
Middle and the end of the month.
Yeah, that's how teachers get paid. But we are officially live. It's Tuesday, February 15th. Table Talk Podcast, episode 24. Today, our topic is about coaching up our youth, talking about mental health with our youth. We're going to talk about how COVID has impacted our youth, you know, what concerns us with this generation, what we hope for in the future for this generation. And so when we talked about this discussion, obviously, number one is Black History Month. So I was like, who would be the perfect person to get on the show? And it had to be my guy right here, the man, Melvin Jackson, head coach Melvin Jackson of Cass Tech Baseball. He has plenty of titles as well, but he is going to introduce himself better than I could, that's for sure. So, first of all, thank you, Coach, for being here today.
Thank you for inviting me.
You know, this is not his first time. It's not his first time, by the way. I mean, on this set, yes, but I'm going to talk a little bit more once he introduces himself, where we've got connected and, you know, him being on a show previously, and an intense show, and I called him and he stepped up, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later on. We're also going to have Coach Abdullah Kusari in the building as well. I'm sure he's about to be walking in any minute now. He just sent me that text saying he should be pulling up any minute. So we'll have both of these guys talking today. And again, the topic is about coaching up our youth. We're going to have a great discussion talking about how, you know, we address issues with our youth and how we try to help them. And so, we're, you know, the word coaching, I know they're both coaches, but really it's more of mentoring, right?
Yes.
How we mentor our youth. So we're going to definitely get into that. But before we get into that, I want to give a shout out to our sponsors. You know, the Balkan House Restaurant and BC Adhesives. I'm going to start off with the Balkan House Restaurant, you know, located in 3028 Kniff Street, Hamtramck, Michigan. They also have a Ferndale location, 314 West Nile Road, Ferndale, Michigan. Their number for Hamtramck is 313-262-6234. And their Ferndale location is 1248-268-4920. They are famous for their doner kebab sandwich. They even serve breakfast. All their food is halal. Service is A1. Always give it back to the community. Shout out to Juma. Shout out to Hassan. And also, shout out to Abdullah Kusari, who is in the building right now. Coach Abdullah, you know, this is Coach Melvin Jackson from Cass Tech.
Pleasure.
Coach Abdullah Kusari, I call him Coach. He's the assistant AD at Hanley. He coaches soccer, he coaches basketball, he coaches football. What am I missing? Something? Badminton?
No, he's adding too much to the list.
Do you coach badminton too?
Not yet.
But anyways, in all seriousness, we're looking forward to a great show. I did have Dave Farber from Hamtramck High School. Originally planned to be here, but you know he couldn't make it. He had some personal things going on. So Abdullah, you could obviously slide that mic closer to you. And I don't know if you want to wear that shades now or after the show.
After the show, thank you. I appreciate that. I left my shades with him.
Yeah, but no problem. I appreciate you, and you know we're gonna have some fun with this. All right. So
yes, sir.
The first question. Well, first of all, Big Sis, how are you? By the way,
I'm great.
Making sure that you're good too. Everything good?
I'm great. Yes.
You ready for the show?
Coaches are important. That's why I'm very happy to be on the show.
Yes. Are you making sure Ramsey's watching?
100%.
Alright, make sure Ramsey's tuned in. Big Ham said what's good. Hamza from the Movement Podcast said what's good. Larray Batty said hey. And Choop, best show on Tuesday from Khalid. Feel free to comment. If you guys disagree with what we're saying, you know, comment, or you can call. The number is 313-306-1750. The number is 313-306-1750. Feel free to call in if you have to, and we can definitely have a discussion with you over the phone as well. So, the first question is introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself. I'm going to start off with you, Coach Melvin Jackson. If you want to introduce yourself a little bit more, tell us about yourself, what you do, what you've done, stuff like that.
Okay, well, it's a list of things. First, thank you guys for inviting me here. I love this new set, man. You did a great job, man. I love it.
Thank you.
I'm first, you know, you already know that I'm a retired police officer. I was a police officer in the city of Detroit for just shy of 23 years. I retired because I had started a business, JHI Construction, where we work on roofing, siding, and gutters. I started coaching baseball at Cass Technical High School about 5 years ago. And now I'm currently the culture facilitator there. I handle the in-school suspension. I've been doing that this is my third year now. having a great time right now.
That's awesome.
Yes,
that's
thank
awesome.
you.
Thank you, and Coach Abdullah, I'm gonna let you introduce yourself as well.
My name's Abdullah Kusari. I'm the assistant AD at Hanley. Thanks to Mr. Omar, the current AD. He's a great guy, great coach, great AD. He makes my job a lot easier. I was the soccer coach. I mean, I have no qualifications for that, but I think I did a great job.
We'll get into that. Yeah.
I'm the basketball. I'm the assistant coach for basketball, and I used to play football when I was younger. That's pretty much it.
A mentor, by the way, too.
Yes.
Definitely a mentor to the young fellas, too. So I got quick 2 stories on both of the stuff that they just did. So starting off with Coach Melvin Jackson. So this was about, I think it was last year around this time I felt like. It was probably like April, May. We had an incident in Hamtramck. I don't know if you remember this, Coach Abdullah, where, I don't know if you remember, he had a little issue with the police. And, a lot of people were upset with the way the police treated him. And, there's a video that came out circulating about how they, a video about the situation. So long story short, it was a hot topic happening in the Hamtramck community. So I called this guy up because basically you didn't want a Hamtramck cop representing in this situation because it was Hamtramck cops that were involved.
Right.
So it wouldn't make sense to have the Hamtramck cop in there. So I was like, you know what? I know he's a retired, police officer, and he knows his stuff, and I know that he would be able to communicate well. And so, long story short, reached out to this guy. This was like less than a week. It was probably, I think it was like a Thursday or Friday, and we did the show like on a Tuesday or Wednesday.
Yeah.
So, let him know, and he was like, send me the video, and I should be good to go, but send me the video. I sent him the video. Long story short, nailed it. Like play by play. I rewatched it, and it was like, I can't tell you guys like how great it was because
I watched that one too.
Yeah, and the thing is, you want to know how it's great, Abdullah? Is nobody was questioning what he was saying. Like, you know how
a lot of times you'll have a disagreement with somebody's opinion. Yeah.
Like, I was waiting for it. I'm being honest with you, because I was waiting for it because it was gonna happen. But I'm looking at it, I'm like, there was no trolls. There was nobody like sitting there and.
So a lot of times you'll have, like, for example, one side of the spectrum you'll have a cop hater, and another side you'll have a cop lover. But if you could get everybody to just agree, that's very, very, very tough.
And you know how you do that is stick with the facts. Yes, and that's what he did. That's what he did. That's exactly what he did.
That's all it was, just the facts.
Yeah, and he stuck with the facts. And heck, even Ibrahim edited him, who was on the show with him. Like he couldn't say anything. Like at that point, he was just like, how can we like make this happen so we don't happen again?
Right.
And so appreciate you, man. Like I said, it's not your first time, and of course we had Coach Abdullah here talking about what it takes to be a leader. But role models. It was role models. Yes. So, it's kind of similar. We're talking about kind of mentorship today. But when he says that I make his job easier, this guy makes my job easier 24/7. This guy's the man right here. Seriously. We had soccer coaches. We had to let them go in the middle of the season. They just didn't care about the kids pretty much.
Stepped up.
He steps up, takes them to the playoffs. Realistically, should have won that game. Referees. But we ain't going to get into referees today. But long story short, this guy right here does his thing, and we appreciate him. And seriously, but with that said, we're here to talk about the youth, right? We're here to talk about coaching up the youth. Here we go. The best coaches I know sitting across from each other. Great show, says Yusuf Thabit, little bro Yusuf chiming in. So shout out to Yusuf. He's trying to get on that field, coach.
He's trying to get playing time. All right, you got one. You get in for a minute.
You gotta earn the minute.
I got it.
You gotta earn it.
I'm gonna be surprised Zach start commenting right now too, coach. All right. But with that said, let's get the show on the road. So you are a coach, like you mentioned. So what is the biggest thing that you prioritize when coaching your players? Like, what's number one that you try to instill in your players, coach?
I think at this time the time that we're in right now, I think that believing is everything. I always focus on believing because that's what got me to where I'm at. No matter how dark it looks in your life, whatever it is you're going through, you got to believe in something. If you're if kids are playing a sport and if you don't believe that you can actually be great at it, you're not going to be great at it. The man who thinks he can and the man who thinks he can't are both correct. So I'm always focusing on the belief. We know that conditioning and health, all that plays a part of it, but you can be in the greatest shape, but if you don't have the belief, you're going to have a hard time with that sport. So I focus mainly on believing, because if you can get a kid to believe in what it is you're getting them, you can get that kid to do anything. So that's my focus at Castag, with youth, with Yusuf, and the rest of the guys. I'm working on your belief. I want you to believe that you should get up every day and give your best, 100% every time. And whatever happens when you give 100%, that's what it is, and you can't be mad at yourself for that. So that's basically belief. That's one thing that sticks out with me is believing.
Yep, and like you said, believing, they'll buy into everything that you'll say then afterwards, and they'll buy into everything, And so if you get them believing, I like that. Coach Abdullah, how about you? Like, what is one thing that you try to focus on with your players?
Just to go off belief. My number one thing is effort, but just to go off on belief. I remember our last game, the basketball game, one of the kids, I was like, you know what, you're going to start the second half, go on in. He's like, you know what, I don't want to play, like, you don't have to let me play. Like, I saw that disbelief in himself.
Right.
And it was a very big game. So I was like, you know what, you're out, and it's only because you don't believe in yourself. I was like, next time, have that confidence. Don't go into a game and say, no, don't put me in. I'll put you in later, but not now. You're not ready yet.
Right.
But
I'm gonna need the name of that player, by the way.
That's confidential. He's a great kid.
Alright.
Yeah. But I'll go with effort, number one thing, because I don't care how talented you are, how big you are, how strong you are, how fast you are. If you're not gonna give me effort, you're gonna be on the bench. Because a lack of effort is like, all right, I'm gonna quit on a defensive assignment. I'm going to rest on this play. I'm not going to give my full effort. So I'd rather take somebody at 100% versus a very talented player at a 50% because I know he's going to come with it every single play.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Effort, belief, and coaching it goes hand in hand with teaching.
Yeah. But I could also talk about what I would look for in a coach for my son.
There you go. So
Okay,
that's great.
For me, that's how I took it with this whole
That's cool.
situation. For me, when I look for a coach, I want a coach who wins. No, I'm just joking.
For sure. That's
I like to win. I'm missing. But no, for real.
She is that mama.
We want to win also. Believe
You have
Yes,
to.
sir.
Just a little bit. Put that in there. But no, for real. I want a coach that's honest. That will find like what my son is weak in and help him get better. You know what I'm saying? Like winning obviously is in there. I just want to see a growth in whatever his skill is. So for a coach to know the skill, like know the game, and then also as a mentor as well. Like I want to be able to trust the person that my son is around. Like my whole life, my brother has been my son's coach, and then Coach Dave coached him a little bit of baseball, and now during basketball, now we have Coach Abdullah, and I am 100% confident in his coaching skills. So definitely, like that's a lot what I look for.
Well, based on what the coach just said, I think if you can find effort and belief is so important. If you can get those two things in a sport, the kid, everything else falls into place.
100%.
Everything else falls into place, and then the parent would actually see the effort and everything that he does, whether it's in the schoolwork or on the field or off the field. So effort and believing is like
it rubs off as well with the other players.
Yes.
You see your teammate, especially if he's a leader. If he's slacking, everyone's gonna slack. They're like, all right, if the leader's doing that, I'm gonna do that too. That's not fair. But if everyone's given, like, even if you're not the leader, if it'll be just a random, it could be a role player, and if he's given 100% effort, everyone else they're gonna feed off that energy.
And it's hard for me to cut a kid that you maybe cut from the team, but you see him giving 100% effort every day.
Yes.
You go like, man, I can't cut this kid.
Yeah. But that comes with like honesty. Like I would, like real talk, I would want the coach to tell me this is not your son's like if it gets to the high school level and he's not really performing the right way that he's performing, like to tell me this should be the sport he focuses on or this you know what I mean? Like I would rather have the truth than someone keep my son and waste his time when like he doesn't have that natural skill.
He's leaving.
But I have kids like that trying out right now for me who you can see that he probably won't be a great baseball player right now. But what I do is, if he comes, he shows up every day, he gives me that effort, maybe he can still be on the team. I can find something that he can do. You know what I'm saying? He can maybe keep score. He can sit there and actually learn the game. I can put him in a program after a summer program where he can get better. By the time his 10th grade year show up, he may be ready. It may be his sophomore year. It may be his junior year. It may be his senior year. So long as he stays there and he's actively working and he's showing the effort and he's showing the improvement and he's believing what it is that he's doing, the results eventually will show up. Like I have a kid now who wasn't doing that well. Put him in a summer program. Man, the kid is to really excel. I think he's going to have he's a sophomore for me. I think he's going to have a great year. He will be starting.
Yeah, that's awesome. Uncle Nash chimes in and said, "What's up, Coach Jackson? Ali Abdullah's father," and he said, "What's up? Listen, I know this is a Russian UFC fighter, and he's talking about you." Yes. Did you see it?
You know what's funny? I had a friend who was at the gym. He was FaceTiming me, and he was like, "Yo, man, my friend, he's at the UFC, this and that." He shows a picture of the fighter, and he's FaceTiming me. He was like, "Oh, man, yeah, that is him." And we're talking about it. I'm just laughing.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
That's exactly what he called it. That's exactly what he's called it right now. But Uncle Nash, that's what he does, by the way. He's silly and likes to crack jokes. But you guys took my answers. You know, effort and belief. You know, once they believe, they'll run through that wall for you. Yes, and that effort, to me, is the most important thing. I don't care. I mean, obviously, you want to have talent, and you do. You want to find that talent, and you would hope that person that's talented brings you that effort as well, because that combination is very dangerous. But at the end of the day, the way I see it is effort is the most important thing, as well as them buying in and believing in you, because they'll do anything then if you ask them to. And winning helps with that belief, because they'll see that they're winning, they see the results.
That comes with confidence. You know? If you're losing, your confidence is gone.
Yeah. So definitely those two things, I definitely like that. And moving on now to the next question. I know you and I were talking about COVID and how I think we're so focused on how it has impacted us as adults, right? We never really talked about how it has impacted the youth, how it has changed their mindset, how it has changed their view of thinking. We even talked about how there are kids that probably are first and second graders that are, they think wearing a mask is what's supposed to be happening in schools. So my question is, first of all, how has COVID impacted the way that you coach? And then how do you feel COVID has impacted the youth?
For me, to be totally transparent, during COVID, I lost 3 family members within 365 days of each other. So my outlook on coaching is a little bit different. My coaching style really hasn't changed per se. But what it's allowed me to do is to focus more on these kids. Because I can imagine if I'm feeling it, I can imagine they're feeling it as well. So as a coach, you have to actually be able to identify certain things that you see in these children. And sometimes if a kid not feeling it that day, I may let him take that day off, whether he's not conditioned or whether maybe he's not, it's okay not to come, But at the same time, I want to try to figure out what it is that you're going through and see if I can help you with that or refer you to someone who can help you with it. Because I had a kid who COVID took a toll on him, being in the house all the time. He wasn't a kid who could really focus at home. His grades totally dropped. He thought about quitting school, and I worked very well with this kid. He was ineligible last year, and I worked with him very well. And I pointed him in the right directions of the resources that we have available for him at the high school and out of school. Just being an ear for him. Man, his report card right now just came back. He's probably just up under 3.0 right now, and he's smiling again. I watched him cry last year about his grades and what was going on in his home life. So to see that, and as a coach, to be able to identify and listen to these kids, man, and again, believing. It's coming back to belief, and all I push was believing. Believing that no matter where you're at, you can come up out of it. Give the effort, which he was talking about. The results will always show up. Because the ground is just like the mind. It doesn't care what you plant in it. It's going to return whatever you plant. And so me pushing those thoughts to him, man, and to see where he's at right now, it's really a beautiful thing to see that.
What are your thoughts on this situation, Coach Abdullah? I mean, how has COVID impacted the way that you coach, even if it has or hasn't? And then, how do you feel like COVID impacted the youth in your eyes?
I didn't think it did until listening to him, honestly. As far as coaching, it didn't really affect me. Around the time that, we would have like a few weeks off here and there for COVID, I wasn't the primary coach. I wasn't even in the picture at that time. I was like overseas. But going back and looking at it, you gotta have a new game plan. For example, if there's players that have to miss because of COVID, if they were in close contact, now you have to switch up your lineups, whether that's baseball, basketball, whatever it is. you might be defense heavy now, you know. So now if you're defense heavy, you gotta figure out how to score a bucket. So you might try to push the tempo on offense, whatever it is. But as far as COVID, as far as like mental health with COVID, how that goes, to what he's saying, I can see how that affects a family, because a lot of times if you're in a negative environment, a household that there's a lot of fighting going around, there's a lot of negativity as a young kid, as a youth, and you're around that environment 24/7 now. A lot of times your refuge is playing a pickup basketball game at the park, or playing a football game, being around your friends. But now you don't have that refuge, you don't have that safe place. Your home is not a home. So I could see how that plays a very tough role or a negative impact on you.
Yeah, definitely. And for your case, I mean, I know you see first graders in this situation, but how do you feel like it has impacted them?
I feel like for everyone in this school, socially, education-wise, everything, I feel like they're a little bit behind. When my first graders came in, they weren't really ready for first grade. But same thing as my first graders going to second grade, they weren't really ready for second grade. They didn't have a full year of school. And I've noticed even the kids are a little bit more shy with each other because they're not used to being around each other. Like, it's weird, like, if I'm taking pictures of them and they take off their mask, like, they're awkward when they smile. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot that goes on, and to go back to what you were saying, and both of you, about being at home and not having that correct environment to excel and do your education. So a lot of the students didn't have the fundamentals they needed to start first grade. So I feel like in education-wise, that suffered completely. Because right now we're trying to fill the gap that they lost.
Like, with COVID happening, I feel like these guys are missing out on moments in their lives. Like, if we want to talk about high schoolers, right? In general, in my head right now, I'm thinking Yusuf, his junior, senior year. Ali, as soon as he got to high school, has been COVID hitting. And, Zach is a 9th grader now, same situation. There are hybrid classes, hybrid days, one day out. Like, don't you feel like they're missing out on that experience? Like, vice versa with college kids, too, by the way. College kids, too. Like, to me, college was, like, the most experienced thing in the world. Like, that's why you're going to go to college, right? You kind of go to college, obviously, to further your education, but for the experience. So, do you feel like they're missing out on that part because of COVID?
I mean, I listened to what your sister was saying. Just imagine for a moment being 4 years old, getting ready to go into the kindergarten. Mm-hmm. When you go back into school, you're in the 2nd grade. Imagine being in the 7th grade, thinking when you go back to school, you're going to be in the 8th, but you're in the 9th. Yeah. You're in the 10th grade, but now you're a senior when you go back into school. My daughter was a class of 2020 in Cass Tech. I can remember us being in the school building in 2020 of March, talking about, I'm thinking, oh, it's COVID, we're going to be back in the school in a couple of weeks. But it never came back. Mm-hmm. My daughter was a freshman. When she went back, she was a sophomore in college when she went back into the building. And she was kind of like lost a little bit. Yeah. Like, that's why it's so important when I talk about believing so much. Because when you think about it, man, me being in I probably would have quit. Yeah. There were a lot of kids wanting to quit. I can't imagine 30 years ago where your school was just over, where you ain't got to go. I don't know, man. I thank God for people like yourself who recognize these young people who need those certain things. A kid's not ready. You know what I'm saying? And imagine, and parents, the thing about it is, you have parents in the household who's not prepared to help that child. 100%. I mean, kid has a laptop sitting in the house with them, and the parent doesn't even know how to operate it.
That case is like almost 100%, like, of your class.
So what do you like? That's like the kid doesn't have no one to help him, and the grades are dropping, stress. Everything is happening with them, and it's like there's nothing to help them with. So what do you do? That's why it's so important, to have resources like which I give a lot of my students. We made kind of Cass Tech. A lot of the counselors and the teachers, we were calling the kids that was on the road, that's the road list, and just checking on them. We'll do wellness checks. and check the temperature, see how they were doing, see how they were feeling, and putting together resources to be able to help the children, And that's why, I tell a kid, if you can get through this right here, on the other side of this ain't nothing but success.
Right.
That's it. You're going to the moon.
Because we never had to deal with this, right? And so if they get through this with all the stuff that we're probably dealing with too, and they've done it all. Did you want to add on something?
I kind of want to say something.
Okay, go ahead.
The idea of unknown affects adults, let alone children. Like, they don't know what's going to happen next, They just know the present, and it's our job as adults and coaches and teachers and all that to give them the idea of some type of security and some type of consistency for them to succeed. So I kudos to Cass Tech for reaching out to the kids, even though they're older. I know, like, with the younger kids, were, we did everything, and we made visits to their houses and all that. But we can't forget the older ones too. We can't just assume that they're fine. You know what I mean?
Definitely. Yusuf had a personal question, side question right here. All right, so we gotta be ready to answer this one, guys.
No.
All right. He said, "How do you guys choose captains? Is it from talent-wise, work ethic, always talking, etc.?" You want to go ahead and start this one out?
Well, a lot of times for me, it's these kids who initiates themselves, push themselves out front. You see it. You can just look and you see who's at practice every day. You can see who the kid is working very hard. The leaders always rise to the top.
100%.
You know what I'm saying? And sometimes just because you're a good athlete doesn't make you a good leader. So as a coach, you kind of be balanced. You got to watch. You got to kind of look. You know what I'm saying? Because you really don't know. In my thing, I might say this is the captain, that's the captain, but that doesn't mean you can't initiate certain things. You know what I'm saying? You can't be a leader. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't take a coach saying you're a captain for you to step out and say you're a leader. You are a leader. You know what I'm saying? No matter what position you are. Because in the game of baseball, it's like life. You know what I'm saying? Everybody gets a chance to step up to that plate. And it's going to be up to you to put the ball in play. That's just life. You know what I'm saying? So the question to Yusuf, I don't necessarily, we have people labeled as captains, but he's a captain also. He doesn't know I've been watching him in conditioning right now. I'm always watching, but I ain't saying nothing.
Right.
I'm always watching, and he doesn't talk a lot. He
doesn't.
doesn't talk a lot. He doesn't talk a lot. But the thing
He's
about
always been that way, though.
I don't need a kid talking. You know what I'm saying? I'm an action guy.
I was going to say, you're going to see Zach, and then you're going to be like, I wish he didn't talk as much.
I see him now.
Oh, that's for sure, yeah.
Going on to, by the way, we got Alia, and Alia said yo, and then they're saying hi. Jamal saying hi. They said my inspiration is Coach Abdullah, AJ Jamal. So
Jamal.
And
We
you
love
know
fans
what?
a lot,
That-
but we love each other.
That's what I'm telling you guys. Coaches, like with students like Jamal, Jamal, I love you.
Jamal's
But
a
they
great kid.
are,
He's a very good player.
yeah, and he has that effort, and he wants to play, like he wants to show his skill so bad, but you need to match that in the classroom.
Yes.
You need to match that in the classroom. Put that effort in the classroom. He's super smart, you guys. Mind you, this guy's a genius. I believe that he is a genius, but he gets himself into trouble. And that respect level between you and the teachers, it's hard, So that's all I gotta say about it.
And he needs to know it's hard for everybody.
Exactly.
Because we're rooting for him. That's what students don't know that. They think that like we're
picking on him.
Yeah. But when really we're rooting for you, we're stuck in a rock in a hard place. That's a famous line, and we're in a situation where we're
handicapped.
Yeah.
We can't say, all right, you can play, but the teachers look like, how are you not going to discipline this kid,
So, but what are your thoughts? How do you view captain? Same thing with Coach Jackson, pretty much the same?
Yeah, I'll just go in off that effort, hard work, but I feel like with me personally, if you're going to come with effort and hard work only, sometimes your teammates, that's not enough for them, If for a leader, for a captain, you got to rise above everybody. You don't have to be the best player. It would be good. It would be perfect. It would be like a dream to have the best player on the team, the most talented, to match that with effort.
Yes.
But as long as you're a great player or a good player, you match that with effort, then I feel like then you're a captain.
Right.
Because your peers are probably not gonna.
Yes.
You're just gonna be that guy with the big mouth on the sideline.
Yeah, you can't just keep trying hard. Now I'm looking like, man, shut up, man, you suck. Like in my head, this is me as a kid, Like, man, why is this guy talking, man?
Yo, why when you said that you looked at her, that Ramsey?
No. Ramsey's a great player now. No, not Ramsey.
No, but yeah, I can see what you're saying. I can agree with
But
that.
I had like when I was a kid not too long ago. I'm pretty young right now, so I used to have a few teammates like that. It was good to have them around. I'm not saying I hated that environment, but in my head, I never used to take them as a leader for me, or they never used to take us above. It's usually like the better players that are more active vocally, and they're actually working hard in practice. They're actually trying to teach you. They're not just making fun of you if you're making a mistake here and there. It's okay with your friend to goof off here and there, but take your job serious. Your job is to be a student athlete.
Yeah, leaders and captains lead by example. So, to this young man who's talking about, as far as did you say guys gets in trouble sometimes?
Yeah.
Coaches want to know that a player is teachable and coachable, and that's going to show what you're doing in your classroom. Like I have one of my players now. Teacher sent the day an email about him coming 15 minutes late to the classroom. Like, you can't do that. You're an athlete. You shouldn't do that as at any student, but you wear the uniform of the school, and you're showing up 15 minutes late to class, and some of your classes you're not doing well in it. So me as a coach, as a father, as a man, I had to do what's right for you in the team. So you may be sitting on the bench, you may not be playing, and it may hurt me to do that, but I have to do what's best for you and the team. I got to lead by example.
Yes.
100%.
Just to add on, so we had great players. Like I feel like one of our best players wasn't even on the team. Me and you, we felt like that he doesn't deserve to be on the team because of the lack of effort he puts in, and he felt like he didn't have to show up to play a game, and it was like, no way, like you're leading by example, and if you're gonna lead in that type of way, I don't even want you around these kids.
No.
It's you're setting terrible example, terrible. Like he lets his emotions get the best of him sometimes. He needs to learn how to control that. But like he couldn't be on the team. Like I wasn't gonna allow that. Lack of effort. Like I would have to take him out of games, because of lack of effort. Jamal, if he's still watching,
he is.
Jamal, his weakness as far as I'll start with the student wise. So I've never saw a student like. I've heard that he excels in the classroom,
Yes,
right?
so
he's very smart. Like I'm jealous because I wasn't that way,
Yeah.
Like
he doesn't have to even
like
try.
respect to you, Jamal. Like I'm like that was surprising. I'm like, why is he always in trouble then? Because I never saw a student that always constantly is in trouble, but he has all A's and he's a great athlete. Like it didn't make sense to me. Like why are you in trouble? Usually, if you're not a great athlete, you're very smart in school, and if you're not smart in school, you're a great athlete, and then there's people right in the middle. It's never usually like that though. Like in his scenario, it was the first time. As far as the athlete goes, Jamal's biggest weakness is his emotions.
Yeah.
So I could easily trigger him, anger him, and it would affect his game. So I'm gonna let you know the secret now, Jamal. During practice, I would purposely try to get in his skin, try to mess with him. Because I know his weakness was mentally. So I would just try to say something the way I would just play. Like I'd literally check him in a game or whatever it is, just to mess with him. Like I wanted him to control his emotions. It's good to get angry,
Yes.
but you got to control that anger. And then you got take it out on me on the field,
Yeah.
But don't just quit. Don't just give up on a play. Don't make a mistake. I want you to prove me wrong. Prove that why you're on that court, why you're on that field. Prove it. I'm giving you that edge, and I wanted him to use that edge. But he's still young. He's a seventh grader.
And Jamal is just a minor example because there's a bunch of kids, especially this generation.
Yes,
There's a lot. I
athlete.
think all of them are like that. To be honest with you, some are just a little more than others, but a lot of them are mentally, emotionally, mentally unstable. I guess you want to call it that, or where they're. I don't want to call them weak, right? Mentally weak, because But I want to just say you can get to them easily.
Yes.
A lot easier than.
It's good to start now though, because he's in middle school. I could only imagine once he gets high school how great he's gonna be. And that's why it's good to do this now.
Yeah.
Because if you ignore this in middle school and then you ignore it as a coach or as a parent in high school, and then once he's in college, that's it. Like a lot of times when a kid reaches college or even high school, they don't want to listen to their coach anymore. They don't know how to take constructive criticism at all.
That's a lot of the youth nowadays.
Yeah.
They do not know how to take constructive criticism well.
Yes.
Yeah, like this kid you're talking about right here who gets all A's, but he gets in trouble in class. Sometimes, they're not being challenged. Also, being the teacher, me, identifying a kid. Like I always trying to, it's like my police thing. I'm always trying to identify something before it occurs. A kid like that, you would try to identify what is it I can do for this kid, because he's smarter than everybody in the classroom. He's smarter than everybody, hands down. What can I do for this student to keep them on focus?
I
on track?
100% agree with you.
So as a coach, kids like that, I have a couple kids that are very, very smart. Sometimes I try to put them in a leadership position. Sometimes, you know what I'm saying? You have to find creative ways to get the best out of these kids. Like if I was checking my coach,
that's a dream come true.
That's the time, yeah.
Yeah.
You can't quit. You quit then. You can't quit now.
Like I'm putting not your job on the line. I'm putting my pride on the line. Like if he cooks me, if he drops me, that's it. You know. Like they're gonna roast me for weeks now.
Yeah.
You know?
And the kids sometimes they'll talk crap smack to me.
Yes.
I have to make sure I'm prepared for the challenge, because if I fail, I'm gonna be the last. And you know they're gonna videotape you.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
And I'm not going for that. No, so I'm not even going there. See, so he's younger and braver than me. See, I'm gonna do a Rick Mahorn on the kid and then shoot him in the elbow. I'm gonna shoot him in the elbow. He gonna be on the ground laid out. He ain't gonna score on me. So that ain't happening. So you brave.
No easy points.
No, but to piggyback on what you said, 100%. I feel like one of the things that, especially in middle school and high school, that teachers have to understand is that they have to connect in a way with the student where they can go into a deeper level than just teaching. They can't just come into your class, you teach a lesson, and they do the work. No, there needs to be a connection, emotionally, mentally. They really have to take the time to get to know them instead of getting angry at if they make a smart remark here and there. Especially middle school kids are different. If you don't connect with them emotionally, they're not teachable.
Yeah,
they're not teachable.
I agree.
So
I'm gonna give you guys a quick example, and it kind of goes into what we're gonna talk about now, mental health. So today, we had picture day at Hanley. So the gym was being used. They told me about it last week. I'm not gonna lie to you, I forgot about it until I read the email this morning. So I walked in, I was like, oh yeah, I remember. So it was one of those moments where I walked into the class, I was like, man, what am I gonna do with them? Like, we ain't about to just play no silent ball.
Teachers are the most flexible people nowadays.
So we ain't gonna play silent ball, where we just toss a ball around, you drop it, you out, in the classroom. Big kids, big middle school kids, we ain't about to do jumping jacks in there either, So I was like, I'm gonna talk about mental health. And I was like, all right, so today we're going to talk about mental health. I was like, y'all, we have a good conversation for 20, 25 minutes. The rest of the hour, we'll play some soundbar or something. And a kid smacked his lips. But I already knew what their mindset is. You know how the stigma is with mental health, right? And so they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to hear about it. But 5 to 10 minutes in, where
their hearts out.
They're sitting there and I can see it in their eyes. I could see it in their eyes. Even the teacher came up to me afterwards. She was like, how do you do it? Like, how do you get their control? How do you get their attention? I was like, I'm be honest with you, I just connect with them. Like, I tell them situations that I know that they can relate to.
100%.
And when they see that, and just because talking about this, because it was the morning, it's the first class of the day, they're talking about mental health. I'm not trying, they're not trying to hear this. That's their mindset. But they started talking. They started answering questions that I was asking. They started to understand kind of what I was trying to tell them and make them understand that, like, this stuff is normal. This stuff is normal. Like, I like to compare it to, like, physical health. When we, fracture our wrists, we address it.
That's right.
Right? When our emotions and our, thoughts are fractured, why don't we address it? That's kind of like the way I went about it, is that the pain triggers in our head that, hey, maybe we need to address this, fractured wrist. So when that pain triggers in our head that we're emotionally not there or mentally not there, why don't we address it? And we kind of had a great conversation afterwards. But the reason why I mentioned this is the connection, right? Them believing and wanting to, they want to see that you actually care. And they trust you and like, what? He's being serious about this, so let's listen and hopefully have a good conversation. I thought it was a great conversation for 20, 25 minutes. We ended up going a little bit longer than I originally had planned because they're answering questions.
You remember that one professional development, Capturing Children's Hearts?
Yeah.
That was one of the best professional developments that I've ever been to, and 100%, you have to reach them at an emotional level, build the trust, build that connection, or they're not going to be able to learn anything.
So we're talking about mental health, right? This is a very important topic, and I'm going to start off with you on this one, Abdullah, because I remember you were saying like we need to talk about this more. It was an incident that happened within our community, and we felt like this was something that we don't talk about. A lot of people don't talk about, and so you said that we need to address it. So first of all, why is it important? Why is it important to address mental health in your eyes? And then the second thing is, I guess, what do you do to help that situation? If you don't, if you don't, what would you want to do? I guess.
Well, the first thing to do is you got to speak on it. If you're afraid to speak on it, it's never going to be addressed. So the first thing to do is to have a discussion, to have a dialogue. It doesn't have to be a discussion with a bunch of people. I mean, ideally, that's something that you would want to do as a community. But if you could have like a group of friends that you trust, emphasis on friends. Like, be careful who you share your secrets with. It could come back to haunt you. So
it can come back to make you.
It'll make
worse.
It'll make
mentally.
It'll make situations much worse down the line. Once, for example, let's say if you and a very good friend, sometimes there's rifts between friends, but what kind of person he is. So even if there is a situation between you two, you know what type of person he is or she is, and they hold themselves to a higher standard, a higher like. They got dignity when it comes to secrets and stuff like that, so they're not going to put your business out. So I like to stay around those type of people, But anyways, back to where I was going with this. So have a discussion with one of your friends. It could be a family member. Open up to them. A lot of times, sometimes when you're just speaking to people, that helps a lot. I mean, that helps me, to be honest. Like, whenever I'm having a discussion, an open heart discussion with a friend, a relative, it helps you go about that day or week. A lot of times that's what they say, just get it off your chest. It's literally letting whatever is boiled up inside of you, just releasing it and just talking to somebody about it. And sometimes that's all it takes. I feel like you could have initiatives where you bring youth together we're coaches, so our number one thing is sports, right? So we try to bring the youth together for sports. Sometimes the youth today, they don't like sports, right? So what's the second best thing to them? It would probably be gaming. I mean, that's the only thing that comes out of my mind. Or I'll bring an event where you have gaming, you'll have sports, you'll have something for the sisters. I'm not a girl, so something for the sisters would probably be like
night,
art,
painting.
like art, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Or
sports.
Yeah.
What should I say?
Sports, yeah, poetry, So yeah, just have things for the youth, because a lot of situations when it comes to mental health, it starts when you're a youth, and then it just boils over until you become an adult, and you never took the time to address that. And now as an adult, you're still thinking back of, oh, this happened to me when I was an 8-year-old, or oh, this happened to me when I was a teenager, and now it just situation upon situation, just different trials and tribulations, they just start building up, and as an adult, it does not get easier, trust me, it gets harder. That's all I got for now.
Coach, same question going your way. Why is addressing mental health with your players important? I know you and I, we had this conversation over the phone about mental health with your players and just in general with the youth. And what do you do to help a player if they're having a bad day? I know you were passionate about this conversation too.
Well, first of all, Cass Tech is actually starting today, in the next few days. Every grade level, they have an opportunity to come into the gym and listen to someone that our great principal have there speaking regarding mental health. So I commend her for those things that she's doing. I know when certain kids, certain people, even myself, it's like to know that you're alone. Kids don't need to know that they're alone. They need to know that there's somebody there that they can talk to, not feel isolated. And you have understanding for what they're going through. I think with me being able to, I'm so good at what I do, is because I experience just about everything they've already experienced. So I have an answer just about for everything, but when I come across a young lady, it's a little bit harder for me, but I'm smart enough to know that there's something not for me to handle. I have the tools where I can, hey, this is who you go see. This is the person that you talk to, because I know the results and how this person, you have to be in a caring business. I think in education right now, I think it's just a job to some people, but you got to love people. You got to have a caring for children. To get when you find a person that do well with people in sports and coaching, it's all because they care. You know, it's like they God sent. Like, you know, you're here, you get the results that you're looking for. My thing is just like, just to let them know that they're not alone. You know, let them know that they can come to you and they trust you to not, you know, laugh or shame them. Because everybody, everyone never talks about their problems. I never talked about a lot of my things because you ever thought, man, they're going to laugh at you. You know, somebody going to say something bad about you. But when you know that you have that support there, that net there for you, kids tend to start sharing more, knowing that you care more. I had a kid today in the school building, I'm going to go too deep in it, that, you know, the assistant principal brought him to us. I don't want to, because if somebody may be listening, may know who I'm talking about, but 4 people tried to talk to this person. I took the person to themselves. 5 minutes later, I had what I wanted. And it's all about me being able to relate to this kid and this kid knowing that I care. So he was willing to share with me what was going on with him. And after that, we were good. We fist bumped. He went on about his way. And he didn't get in school suspension. You know what I'm saying? So
that's a great feeling.
I was going to say, they put you in a great position to do in-school suspension. Like, I feel like that's...
Oh, I love it, man. I love it. You know, I truly love, because I can relate. Normally kids come out, the principal, what did you say? What do you do to these kids?
I listen and I care. No.
I had the answer sheet.
Yeah.
I had the answer sheet. I know what you're going through.
Can we borrow the answer sheet, by the way? We need sometimes.
No, but the thing about it is, you have to be real with yourself.
Yeah.
Talk about the things that you know that you can help kids with. Don't try to be something that you're not.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are trying to be things that they're not. Like, even the athletes, you know, that we would. I have a kid trying to play shortstop. Listen, you're not a shortstop.
Play your position.
If I ever see
That's
you,
not honesty.
if I ever see you a shortstop again, I'm kicking you off the team. I'm straight like that. You're not. If you want, start at second base.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Graduate, because you don't know what to do at this spot. Not to say that you can't do it a year or 2 from now. You maybe can, but right now you're not ready. Stay away from there.
That's a danger zone right there.
No, because shortstop,
It's a lot.
It's a lot, and it can, like, you don't do your job. Next thing you know, you're losing the love of baseball, because that ball can come to you.
Right. Because no, what happens is when you play that team, you go, the coach looking at you like, look at this kid over here.
Right.
This is who we hitting the kid to. It's
Yeah.
like in sports, you know.
Yes.
Well, listen, we're gonna throw the ball at this person right here. He gonna score all day on this person. Coach is looking, man.
Yeah.
You know, I can't do that.
Yeah.
No, I can't set you up to lose for failure as a person that I am.
For sure. And this round of applause, by the way, is for Cass Tech for doing that mental health conversation as well.
Right.
That's very important. I think that's what schools need to do more of. You, mental health, you know, why do you feel like it's important to address it with the younger generation, and maybe what would you do to help it if you had the opportunity to?
I feel like growing up, it wasn't normal to express your feelings or talk about, well, I could say for myself or whatever, or talk about, like, things that bothered me or what I really wanted. Like, it was like, you do this, you have to do this, and that's it. Like, there wasn't no talking back or arguing or whatever. It was always, okay, whatever you guys want. I feel like with the children that I teach and with my son and the younger, I feel like I'm a big sister for everyone. I don't know, you could attest to that. Anytime I see a little girl or a young girl, I'm like, listen, you can do whatever you want to do, and I'm here to back you up. You know what I'm saying? So building that belief, building that trust with the kids. And I believe this is the biggest thing that I believe. I feel like whatever you tell your children when they're young, like whatever you constantly telling them, that's going to be like their inner voice when they get older. So I don't know what their parents tell their kids, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to be that voice, that positive voice that's in their head constantly. So I'm the one that's saying, you can do it. I remember when my first graders first came into the classroom, I was like, listen, we might not know all our letters yet, and that's okay. But when you guys leave this class, we're all going to be reading. I'm like, don't feel like, you know, anyone's lesser than the other. And they're excelling and they're very confident. Like when the principal comes to my class, she's like, your kids, they're just so confident. Like even if they're wrong, they want to raise their hand. And that's the thing, like you can't make them feel scared to share something even if they don't know. So I hear stories all day, you know, it takes up time, but I'm going to be that teacher that stops and let them, you know, express themselves, and because you never know what they're dealing with at home. So I would just say listen more than talking, and understand when to step in and when to also send them off. I know there's one kid, I'll tell a story. He wasn't comfortable talking to me about a situation. And then I told my brother, I was like, listen, take him, talk to him. He probably will listen to you. And like you said before, there's times where you need to pass the baton to someone else and let them handle it if you can't, and know what your strengths are.
She owes me a couple Reese cups, by the way, because that conversation I had to pass on. I had to give out some Reese cups. No,
you don't understand. When she started out speaking about that, I thought about our conversation that we had not too long ago. Not being able to say certain things.
Yeah.
You know, we were just talking about that. He was telling me.
Yeah.
So.
No, definitely, and she's a huge help when it comes to the girls at our school. There's a few Arabic girls at our school that help bridge that gap because they're being told one thing from home, and we're telling them another thing, and so I know that they're having a hard time understanding, and they're in that gap of they don't know what to actually believe, and so that's why hearing it from her, like, it helps me out because I'm a guy, you know, and when you hear it from me, it's like
you don't
it doesn't
understand.
really, and it doesn't really get to them as it would when a woman talks to them. So, you know.
I remember last year, but COVID kind of ruined it. I was so excited because girls basketball was starting, and I was going to be the assistant coach. And I mean, I don't know that much about the game, but I have like the most motivation and the most drive and the most, like, I'll put in 1,000,000% effort. And I would practice with the girls. I mean, it only lasted how many weeks?
3 probably.
3 weeks, but I was there practicing with them, like, and here I am, a teacher doing the drills with them. You know what I'm saying? So, and then we had a bunch of, not to, like, you know, say it, but we had a bunch of Arabic girls join the team too for the first time, and to me that was huge because when I was younger I wasn't allowed to play. You know what I'm saying? So, to be that person to help them accomplish their dreams.
Yes, it's very important, and to bridge that gap, like you said. So, thank you guys for sharing these so far. There's been some great answers. I'm loving it. If you guys are watching, feel free to chime in, agreeing, disagreeing, whatever it is that you have to say, feel free to chime in on that. So, Abdullah, I'm going to ask you this one. What concerns you most about this generation and the generations that are coming up? Like, if there's one thing that you sit there and be like, man, you know, what is it? Is it
scary?
Is there emotional? Their emotions? Is it, what is that, Abdullah?
I mean, in this day and age, I don't want to say just this specific day and age. Even when me growing up around, I feel like this is our time too. Number one thing that sticks out to me, there's been a rise in like drug addiction. Not just drug addiction. But before, it was embarrassing to be addicted to drugs. It was embarrassing to even speak about it. You know, it's forget trying to recover. It was more like it was frowned upon. You know. Now you have glorification of drugs, glorification of lean, of Percocet, Xanax. It's just they're promoting this, and they're promoting it in music. They're promoting it in gas stations, whatever it is. Whenever you're talking to the youth right now, whatever they're, as a joke, they'll just, you know, perk, lean, blah, blah. You know what I'm saying? So
that's what concerns you the most.
That's the most concerning thing because it's not that it's become an addiction. Now it's more like it's glorified now. So even because society is taking it, it's seen as a pro, not a con. And there's a saying that the Prophet said. So he said, if you have no shame, you're free to do as you wish, which basically means if you have no shame, no modesty, no self-dignity as a person, like you're capable of committing any sin in the book because you don't care. You know, I'm willing to do this sin. I'm willing to do this thing. I'm willing to look bad in front of this community. I'm willing to look bad in front of coach, you know, as a student athlete, or, you know, or in front of my teacher because I have no shame. I could care less. So my thing is, like, to counter that, guys, ladies, have some shame, have some haya, you know, have some self-dignity of who you are, who your family name is, who you are as a person. I mean, you're carrying your mother and your father's legacy. You're carrying your own legacy.
Your kids' future.
Yeah, your kids' future. You know, when you want your kids to be proud of who you are as a person. You know, you don't want them to say, "Oh, that's my father," or "That's my mother." You know, you want them to say, "Oh, look, that's my dad. He's this, that. That's my mom. She's this, that." Let them be proud of something. You know, because that's where I'm sorry. What were we talking about earlier? Mental health. That's where mental health could start. You know, it's about being ashamed of who you are, of who your family is. You know, give them some confidence. give them something to look forward to be happy about. And that's the only thing I got for now, for as far as the youth. There's many things, but that's the main thing to me.
I love it. I love that answer. I'm gonna give that a round of applause. By the way, the glorification of the wrong things, glorifying the wrong things. Coach, how about you, Coach? What concerns you the most about this generation and generations to come?
I mean, when you say that, it speaks volume, because I feel like when I see the kids in the school, I feel like they're being robbed of their childhood.
Yes.
You know, it's like you have kids, young adults with adult issues. You know, and it's like, I don't believe that they're able to navigate themselves through those things. Bullying, drugs, social media. There's so many different things out there, man, that's put on these kids, man. And the lack of resources sometimes, or parents who do not know how to point their children in that direction of those things that those kids need. That can be a problem. That's why, you know, again, based on what I've seen at the school that I'm at, all the resources that this principal have in there for these kids, and all the programs and the people who work in there who come together as a unit to try to get these kids to be the best that they can be. Again, it's like that's a wow factor here. There's not no silver bullet for that, but this kids now, man, with adult issues at such a young age.
It's scary too.
They're growing up so quick, man.
Yeah.
They are growing up quick.
If you have a young kid that's willing to kill, you know, because they haven't gone through that experience. Years ago, it was more like the adults. Like when it comes to gangbanging, killing here and there, drugs, it was more like it was the adults that were doing it. Now you have the youth and adults, so now you don't know where's the safe haven, where's that balance, you know. So it's a scary thing, especially when you put a weapon in a kid's head, you know, like a toy soldier. So it's very, very it's a different time.
You know, the thing, I'm not, based on what he's saying, being in law enforcement, seeing what he's saying, and being able to identify, being educators, being coaches. I mean, there's a difference between a person who has a homicidal behavior versus a mental health and homicidal. They're both different. You know, a kid
that's been raised into that situation.
They're different. A kid like the Oxford kid, for an example, he had a homicidal thing going on in his head. It's, you know, which is all up under mental health. You know, some kids, suicidal and homicidal are two different things. A lot of our kids right now, because of what they're going through, there's a suicidal behavior that we're seeing, where they don't have the resources and they try to bring harm to themselves, and they use drugs and things like that to try to suppress those things. A kid who's homicidal, maybe, you know, I'm not an expert on any of these things, but it's just like it's common sense to me, who talks about bringing harm to other people. That's a different beast in itself. And, you know, being able to identify for these things, they have the resources in the school. There was a breakdown in Oxford, you know, where it cost some people their lives. It caused people to go to jail. It caused people to go to funerals, because there was a breakdown. There was someone there who probably knew their job, but was afraid to do their job. You know, so we kind of like got off track there, but I like what he had brought up, because those things come from that.
Yeah, I feel like low income as well. That's something I forgot to mention. A lot of times people go through like a fight or flight. So nowadays you have the youth. They want that new pair of jeans. They want that new Cartier. You know, they just want to survive. To be honest, when you go through a survival phase, you're willing to do anything to survive. So a lot of times we ignore that aspect. You know, a lot of times it's the kid or the adult that's willing to do anything for their family to survive, and it's our duty, not just as a family but as a community, to take care of one another.
I love it. I love it. I mean, what are your thoughts? What concerns you the most?
I think the internet. The internet is good, but to be honest with you, I feel like their youth is getting robbed. They have access to so much at such a young age. Parents don't even know what their kid is doing on the phone anymore. Like it's not in our generation. We don't even, like, there's times I'm like, wait, what's that app? What does that do? And, you know, and we're only 20 years apart. You know what I'm saying? Me and my son, but it's scary. and it's only getting worse. Like the metaverse scares me. People are buying real estate in the metaverse. It's just wild. I'm sorry.
I was like, I'm one, but go ahead.
Oh, anyways. Yeah, like it's just, I feel like them getting so much at such a young age really scares me, and it could be negative. You know what I'm saying? You don't have as much control as you would want. You know what I'm saying? So it's hard because they have their friends in school and they have their friends online. Like you just constantly have to be watching their every move, and there's more trust that's built, but it's scary. I feel like, and then the fact that the youth have this mentality of them knowing more. I've seen that a lot too. Like you know what I'm saying? They feel like they know more because they have access to all of this, and they even make their parents feel some type of way too, like when they understand more than they do. So I don't know. I feel like that gap is growing larger.
Yeah.
And a lot of it has to do with technology.
Yes.
Yeah, technology scares me, honestly.
When I was younger, I forget when I was younger. So I never had a phone until I graduated. So I was in college with my first phone. So as a coach, I'm looking at every single student or every single student athlete, and every single one had a phone. I'm like, how do you have a phone? How do you have? So at first it was like jealousy,
right.
And then it became like, wow, that is scary. Because in my head, I was just like them, you know. So I'm like, man, thank God I didn't have a phone. Like that was my first thought process. A lot of times, like, man, I wish I had a phone. But in my thought process now, looking back to when I was a kid, I'm like, man, alhamdulillah, like, praise to God. Like, I am so happy I did not have a phone, because knowing myself, I'm not everyone else, I don't know, but knowing myself, I know if I had a phone, it would have been bad for me, you know. And I'm grateful that I did not have a phone.
I want to say a quick story for Uncle Nash. I remember I got my first phone my senior year, and it was back when you had to get a certain amount of text messages. Like you don't get unlimited, like how now you can text wherever you want. I remember I had 300 text messages a month, and then like a certain amount of hours, and you could only talk after 8 for free or something. I don't know. I remember he texted me one letter each text until he literally finished my 300. He's like, well, I guess you can't text anybody this. Oh my God. But yeah, they have too much, too little.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of Nash, you just said much respect to teachers and coaches for having so much patience dealing with the young kids. Because me personally, I would have lost my mind. That is Uncle Nash. He's keeping it real. He's keeping it real. Yeah. So, Coach Melvin Jackson, what do you hope to see from this generation in the next 5 to 10 years? Like, what do you want to see from them to be like, all right, you know, they're making that turn for the good?
Well, you know what? Listen, people thought the worst about my generation, and we prevailed. I think this generation here can do the same. I mean, just think, they have technology now, which we didn't have. I mean, if you use it properly, listen, it's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
I can remember like yesterday when I watched the Jets. You guys are too young to know about the Jets.
I remember the Jets.
You don't really know about the Jets.
You're right, though. We don't.
Anybody watching this, if you know anything about the Jetsons, look it up. The Jetsons. They were living in times like we're right now, where flying cars were there, and we're there right now. So we know that your children that are coming up, we have to teach them to be able to balance those things. It could be good as well as it can be bad. As coaches, we know where's the own. Listen, you said you didn't have a phone until you got 3 over. So you're catching up. You're caught up now. But the thing about it is,
to make up for my youth. Yep.
But here's the deal: when is the only time that you do not see a phone in a kid's hand? It's when they're playing sports.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's true.
That's the only time.
That's why
you don't see a kid with a cell phone.
So important.
And we know they're addictive, right? But during sports, they're not even thinking about them. When my kids are on the baseball field, they're not thinking about their cell phones. I'm quite sure when they're on the side, they're not thinking about their cell phone. So if we can create that, that's why sports is so important.
100%.
And there's a lot of children who are not in sports. We know this. But we have to find something, because it's scary. I mean, I trust our youth to take us to a better place, because they have the resources that they have now are a lot better than what we had, my generation had, and what your generation had. So as long as we have people like us in place, and we have people who are listening, you know, we'll be fine. I'm not scared at all. As long as I hope that young folks find a balance and there's continue to be resources out there for them, they'll be fine. Because again, I can remember Mr. Johnson on my block. Oh, you going to jail. You ain't gonna be no good. I was close to being Mr. Johnson's dream, but hey, listen, I made it out. But the thing about it is, we just have to continue to believe and understand that there's a higher power who's controlling everything. I mean, it can't happen without him. So I'm not worried.
I love it. I love that answers. Coach Abdullah, what do you hope to see from the next generation in the next 5-10 years?
Next 5 to 10 years. What do I hope to see? Man, that's a great question, to be honest. As far as the athlete goes, I want to see how good are they going to be in the future, because with the advancement in technology, with science, like, these athletes are getting scary good, you know? Hopefully that IQ matches their athletic abilities, but man, there's some great athletes at a very young age. Like, I would see a middle schooler, I'm like, man, what you talking about middle school? He's at least in 11th, 12th grade, you know?
Yeah.
So there's some freak athletes, very great players. I want to see where they're going to go. As far as just being our society, I want to see how they're going to cope with the technology, with their environment, with just like living every day, because it's a question mark right now, just like how it was a question mark for me growing up, and just that as it was a question mark for you. So I'm waiting to see where it takes us.
How about you?
I want to see a little bit more color in the top 3% for sure. I feel like our youth are a lot more smarter than we were when we were younger. Like, just a lot more on the top. Honestly, more doctors, more lawyers, more in sports. You know, just prevailing and becoming the future. Because at the end of the day, they're going to be the ones that are lawmakers and, you know, leading the country when we're a lot older. So
yes.
As long as we put in, like, make sure that the seed is nicely rooted with strong roots, then, you know, all we can do is just let them continue to grow.
I love it. And before I move on, believe it or not, to the last question already, time already flew by. We've been talking for over an hour, and I know time flies by. Gotta give a shout out to the second sponsor, which is BC Adhesives. BC Adhesives is located in Franklin, Wisconsin. You can go to BC Adhesives for all of your industrial adhesives needs. They do food packaging, book binding, product assembly, and many other industrial services. So if you are in need of adhesives for your business or having trouble with your current adhesives applications, you can contact them by phone, which is 1-888-679-9825, or by website www.bcadhesives.com. Again, shout out to Matt and Terry Cassidy, great guys, Ed and Jake, everybody over there at BC Adhesives. I know I said this already. Matt actually texted me today because he was saying he wanted some shirts, but currently just got engaged. So congratulations, Matt Cassidy. Very happy for him. So looking forward to that moment where we go to that wedding, man. Because I'm gonna be honest with you, Abdullah, we missing out on the Arabic wedding, man. I went to I went to the American wedding and I was like, man, what are we doing, Abdullah? We doing it the wrong way. All right, but that's just another topic for another day. But with that said, last question, basically is what advice would you give to the youth? You know, if you had to give...
And I have an extra question.
Yes.
For you guys
okay.
Yeah,
so
not last question, but...
Okay.
Basically, you have about 100 kids in front of you, that are age range of 12 to 18. Okay, 12 to 17, because 18 is considered adult. So, what are you going to tell them? You got like a minute to talk to them. What is it that you would want to tell them before you walk out of the stage?
First, you got to find something that you believe in. I'm not going to tell my age because the kids will start dogging me out. I was going to say I was close. I was very, very close.
32.
But I have mentors, man. I have mentors at my age. I have people that I talk to, for everything that I need. I have several. You got to have that person. Find that person in your life that you trust, that can help you through some of the things that you're going through. We're all going through something, no matter what people look like. Everybody's going through something. And with me, I'm telling you, man, 2020 was one of the hardest years of my life. And I was really gone at that moment. There was no sports. I didn't have baseball. I had no outlets. I was on the edge. But, God placed certain people in my life that I could talk to, that I can come to for advice. So just reassuring. Children should find that person, man. A lot of times it may not be in your household, but I'm quite sure you have that teacher. My 12th grade teacher, Miss Kelly Mentee, helped me to be who I am today. And she may not know it, but she did a lot for me. Because people never forget how you make them feel, whether it's good or bad. You got to find those people, connect with those people who make you feel a certain way, and be open and honest, man. And just find that person that can help you, because we all need it. One day, we all need somebody, and that's never going to change. Just find that person who can help you and you can talk to, whether it's at your church, whether it's in your home, whether it's aunt, uncle, teacher, pastor. You have to find that person, or your coach.
Definitely gonna get a round of applause for that one. Coach Abdullah, what advice would you give to the youth?
I agree with everything that you just said. One advice many advices I would give to the youth is you gotta believe that you're better than whatever your most negative person says you are. All right. So a lot of times there's gonna be a lot of negative people in your ear in your life. They're gonna downplay what you do. They're gonna talk bad about you. Instead of helping you, they're gonna. Sometimes there's youth going through a lot of problems, and instead of helping them, we shun them, we keep them at a distance, and we don't give that helping hand. All right. So one thing I would tell them is that, look, you gotta know that there's people, you got a family, you got your coaches. There's people that actually love you, that they care about you. And they want what's best for you. And if they don't get that love, you can't. Constructive criticism, we spoke about that earlier. You hear that term, tough love, It's all tough, no love, Where's the love at? You're not going to get into a kid's heart if there's no love there. You got to be able to connect with the youth. And once you see that connection, once the kids see that connection, that's the only time they're going to open up to you. That's why you see a lot of coaches, like with you, how students are comfortable opening up with you, because there's a connection, there's a bond. It's not just, oh, he's my coach. It's he relates to me, and I know that he cares for me. There's love there, It's not just me critiquing him. Oh, he talks so much. Oh, this student is this. Oh, that student is that. A lot of times, that's why kids don't relate to teachers, is because it's just complete criticism. And whenever a kid does something good, we don't care to critique that good, There's no, oh man, this kid did great student. Oh, he had an A in this test. Oh, he really improved. I'm proud of him. Sometimes, like, I might have a teacher come up to me, and the only time she wants to come up to me is when it's negative, and whenever a kid does something bad.
Right.
And whenever he's doing good, it's like, all right, ghost mode, It's like, come on, like, acknowledge, like, if you actually care about the student, you would actually let him know about that. If there's actual care. If it's fake love, then, by all means, go ghost.
Right.
But if you actually care about a kid, about a student, you're going to let him know, oh, I'm really proud of you. You did this. I heard you placed this in this test or this group project or whatever the situation is. It can't just be constant, tough love. Oh, it's just constructive criticism. It's not constructive criticism. Kids know that. They might not know how to express that, but they'll go ghost on you too, just like how we stay silent, they'll stay silent, and they'll just start bottling up everything inside. I spoke about if you have no shame, do as you wish. I said that earlier. That there's a saying of the Prophet, right? So the Prophet ﷺ, I'm sorry. So the reason we have that saying is because it was a youth. The only reason why I knew this saying started years ago. So there was youth, there was young kids in the middle of the night, right? They were just, people call them hooligans, whatever it is. They were alcoholics. They were drinking. They were in their teenage years, so they were out just drinking every single time at some type of corner. So as they're drinking, they see a guy who has like a group of people that are just surrounding him, like, so they're interested in who this person is. Like, man, this guy looks like a great guy. Who is he? So he's riding on his a horse or whatever it was, and this is years ago, right? So this is a true story, by the way. So the guys, it was a bad group of kids, right? So when the guy approaches, he stops the guy. Well, the ringleader, he stops the guy, and everyone covers their beer bottle, right? Because, like I said, if you have no shame, you're gonna do as you wish. So they had shame. They're like, you know what, man? I don't want to show this that I'm drinking in front of this guy, because they all knew him except for this one person. So he's like, man, I don't care who this person is. Like, I'm gonna drink this beer, and I'm gonna be cussing. I'm gonna be doing all this other crazy stuff. So he approaches, like, he stops him. He's like, yo, who are you? Which is kind of rude to say, just out of nowhere, you know, no introduction, no nothing. Yo, who are you? It's like, well, who are you? But he ain't say that. You know, that's what something I would probably said. So he was like, who are you? And then the guy just remained silent. He was like, who is this drunk that's just approaching me? He was like, you know what? His emotions are getting the best of him. Let me just not say nothing. He says it again. He's like, who are you? Guy ignores him. Third time, he gets irritated and mad. Young kid pulls out a knife, puts it to his throat. He was like, I said, who are you? Tell me right now, or else. Basically, he's like, is it a cost of your life? So the guy was like, I'm a muhaddith. A muhaddith is someone who narrates stories of the Prophet, right? So he was like, I'm a muhaddith. And then he was like, all right, so hadith. So he basically said, all right, then narrate a story. Like, I want to hear a story. He doesn't really know anything about stories here and there, so he's just interested. He doesn't really care, but he just wants to be annoying to this guy. He's like, all right, I'll narrate. He ends up narrating a story. And he was like, and that's the story. He was like, all right, the Prophet said, if you have no shame, do as you wish. As this guy is holding a beer, as he's approaching him, as he's putting a knife to his neck. The kid felt so embarrassed. He said, and he's narrating the story, he was like, it pierced me in my heart like an arrow pierces somebody. He was like, I just started shaking, I dropped my knife, and I ran home to my mom. And he told her what happened, and he apologized. He told her everything that he used to do, his life. And then he said he felt so ashamed and embarrassed. She was like, go study under him. He was like, I'm ashamed. Like, I have shame. Like, if you have no shame, do as you wish. Now he has shame. That teacher, that student, that coach, that life coach taught him something. He didn't even know who he was, but he cared about that person. So he went through a change. He was like, I'm too ashamed to go to that teacher. Let me find somebody else. That somebody else was a very famous scholar. His name was Imam Malik, one of the 4 legendary scholars. Imam Malik ended up teaching him. Years later, he was like, I want to meet that person that taught me, right? So he goes and he looks for that guy, but the guy later already passed away. And then he was like, what do you know about this guy? He was like, I know that he narrated this hadith or this story, and nobody knew this story except for him. So the reason why we have this story is because of this guy lived that story. He was like, if you have no shame, do as you wish. And that story was narrated from that youth who got it from that adult, that elder who got it from the Prophet, you know. And this youth ended up becoming one of the greatest legends in our religion, right? And his name was Sheikh Abdullah and Malaysia, I believe, if I got that right. And his 2 students, this youth, when he got older, he had 2 very, very, very famous students, the greatest narrators of story ever. And the only time you'll catch these people narrating stories is 1 or 2 students. So these are his 2 students. I'm not sure if you heard of them, Imam Bukhari and Imam Muslim. Mm-hmm. And those were his 2 students. So that was just a great story I had to share about our youth.
Yeah, I like the story that I knew where you were going as you was going.
Yes.
As coaches, we are narrators.
Yes.
Kids, we may not understand what we're helping these kids with right now. When we are called, they may be standing doing a testimony at our funeral one day, mm-hmm. talking about what the impacts that we made on their lives. That's the thing about coaching. You know what I'm saying? You don't see the effects of it right now, but it'll be 10, 20 years down the road, kid come back. Like, you know, some of my kids, I'm not looking for you to go to the pros or whatever. Many go to college. I have kids in the medical school, lawyers, all businesses and everything. And it's really refreshing to see that I had my hands on that child at one point in time. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, you said we was over, the time was running, so I know you're like, hey, you guys, time
no, yeah.
I know how you guys are the producers, you know.
No, a lot of the times when you get advice, you don't use it right away.
Right.
You know, it'll be like later on, like, oh my God, coach said this, yes. You know, this, yes. And this, and this, and then you use it in the future.
So what would you give advice to?
I'm gonna keep it short and sweet. Basically, I would tell them to be themselves. Ask questions. There's no dumb questions. Ask questions when they don't know, and put in their effort and not waste time. I feel like a lot of the times, as kids and as middle schoolers, high schoolers, they waste a lot of time. Have fun, but don't waste too much time. I tell the middle schoolers all the time. I'm like, right now you're learning biology. If you really pay attention in middle school, high school is gonna be easier. College is gonna be even more easier. You know what I'm saying? Don't waste time and ignore it now. And then when you get into college, you're still trying to figure out meiosis. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So if you're paying it, don't waste time. Listen, soak up everything that you can soak up at a young age, so life would be easier for you. And we know a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Listen to us a little bit. We've been through some stuff, so just listen.
Yeah.
As much as you speak.
And for me, it's just finding that person, like you were talking about. Just finding that person that you can talk to about stuff. I think that's very important. That's one of the best advice I can give people, is just finding that person, because they can guide you through life. Everything that you're going to be going through, they can be there for you. So, when you talk about a specific thing, once you get to that point where you want to get married, when you're trying to find yourself, what career you should, follow, all that stuff, man, that person that you can call, and I hope everybody has that person. And if not, find you that person. I'm more than happy to try to be that person for you as well. So, that's stuff that when you got that person, there's no you can't put a price tag on it, right? You can't put emphasis on it. You can't even thank that person enough. You know what I'm saying? Like I was telling Coach, I want to thank you for all the stuff that you've done, and this is nothing, just having you for dinner or something like that is nothing, because we want to show that appreciation, but you really can't even do it because there's really no price tag of the impact that this people had on your life. So finding that person, I think, is very important, and it can just guide you. It can guide you throughout it all. So I know you said you had a question that you wanted to ask them, so now the floor is yours, big sis.
So we've been talking about a lot of heavy topics, so let's end it off with something light. What is your most favorite thing about coaching? What is the best thing about coaching, basically? Or what do you like? What drives you to coach? What's...
You can go first, and then with Coach right here, and have him finish it off with the last word.
My favorite thing is instilling a different type of belief in the kids. Me personally, a lot of times I'll see that they have a different culture, a different mindset as far as the game goes, right? So they might not be used to a style of play, or they never saw the game in this type of way. And then you just open their mouths oh man, and I get excited when they hear me say, oh man, I never knew about this, I never knew about that. We bring a different game plan, a different strategy. That's my thing. I enjoy that the most. And then when they actually execute, you go through something in practice and then they execute in the game, and then you're like, man, I taught him that. You're remembering that. And then after the game they come dap you up. Oh, thanks for teaching me that. So that's the best feeling as a coach. And then you finish it off with a W, of course.
Yeah.
Winning is everything.
Mine is just growth. I just want to say growth. Just watching them grow as a player is just, it's beautiful, because you see everything that you put in, and now you see it come to life. So growth for me. But how about you, Coach?
Repeat the question again, because I kind of got into a couple of different thoughts.
It's okay. What is your favorite thing about coaching? What do you love most about it?
There you go. The favorite thing about me is for me, is somebody did it for me. I've always believed in giving back. Okay. You know what I'm saying? And if I could see I could help a kid, because it's so much bigger than sports.
100%.
It's about winning at life.
Yes.
That's why winning is so important. And in baseball, there's a lot of failure. You're going to fail a lot, but can you pick yourself back up and get back up there? And that's the thing. That's why I'm always working on belief. Belief is so important to me, because that's what got me through all the navigating me through life to get me to where I'm at, So believing, man, and just continue to believe and continue and give the effort. We go back to what we were talking about, and just working hard. Someone did it for me, man, and that's why I'm so happy to give back. But I'm getting up there, what I'm saying, and it's like you said about your son maybe coming, but again, I just continue to give back because somebody gave to me. And as long as God allows me to stay here and give back, that's what I'm going to be doing. You know, so we can create those other young people who got that lesson from you to continue to give back to somebody else. And that's why, that's how the legacy continues to go.
I'm sure you remember that, Coach, too.
And that's why I don't worry about the future. Because as long as we got people out here like this, continue to give back and helping the youth and inspiring them, I mean, the future is it's going to be okay.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's very positive, too.
I actually, just very something quick, one thing I actually love about coaching is like the different personalities in every player. Like you get to learn it, and then sometimes you're just laughing at their thought process, but you're not saying it, but you're just thinking it. Like, man, this person's like this person's like that. So everyone has like a rare, special personality or a special ability, you know. And I enjoyed that too.
And you're the coach, you're the head honcho that puts it all together, right? At the end of the day. So we hope that you enjoyed this conversation. First of all, shout out to these guys. Round of applause for both of them. Coach Melvin Jackson, Coach Abdullah Kusari in the building. Great conversation, honestly. I really did enjoy it. I'm sure Big Sis enjoyed it, and I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. Again, you know, we were live on YouTube under Oz Media. You can later listen to this show on Apple and Spotify podcasts under Oz Media. This is already episode 24 of the Table Talk podcast. It was all about coaching up our youth, and it was a great conversation, you know, and this was part 2. You know, I know we didn't really focus on African-American communities, but a lot of the conversations will fall under, I think, all of the communities that we discussed. Next week, we should have another great one for you with Officer Paisley and Officer George from Detroit PAL. Looking forward to that one where we'll have them on the show. We're talking about, you know, policing and with our community and stuff like that, so we're definitely going to have a fun one with that. I know you know Officer Paisley.
Paisley, man, you got a winner coming.
Yeah, I love her.
I love her too, I love her. Like in real life, I love her. No. I helped break Paisley in when she became a police officer at the 11th Precinct, man. That's a fantastic young lady, man.
Yes.
Yeah.
Great
So
you can tell the passion that she has for the community.
For the kids, for everybody.
And before we leave, man, I just want to say, man, you are like blowing up, man.
Nah.
You like blowing up, man. Like, I'm going to be asking for a loan. Sponsor the baseball team or something, man.
It's this guy.
Sponsor.
I get free
He's actually moving soon,
man. Yeah.
No, it's all about, first of all,
keep doing it,
man. Thank you. I appreciate it.
One person is consistent and determined. That's Ahmed right here. He is an inspiration for sure.
Yes, I'm glad. I'm glad we've met, man. I'm glad I met this guy right here, man.
Definitely, and I'm happy. You already know how happy I am that we've met. It was all written, and it was something I always wanted, and it was a coincidence. I met his son at a clinic, and see how life works out. He was talking about this earlier, just how everything worked out. It was all written to be that way. So
that's right.
It was perfect timing. And again, thank you guys for being here. I really do appreciate you.
Thank you
both. This is not their first time on this. I mean, it might be for your first time here, but it's not his first time being on a show with myself. So I appreciate you, Coach Melvin Jackson. I appreciate you, Coach Abdullah. And I appreciate you, Big Sis, too, of course. I got to make sure I mention that. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll be live again next week, Tuesday, 7 o'clock. Same YouTube, Apple, Spotify podcast. And we'll see you then. Thank you guys all for watching.
Thank you.
Thank you.